Tony Beets has made quite a name for himself as the unbreakable Viking of the Klondike. He is known to be the kind of man who has forged a path for himself through hard work, cold winters, and the entire grind of the Yukon. But behind all the rough exterior and his booming voice, which fans have come to know and love on Gold Rush, there is a story of struggle and heartbreak that Tony has carried for years. Now, the question on everyone's mind is, what is the heartbreaking news that Tony Beets has confirmed? Is the legendary empire falling under financial pressure, or does the true tragedy run even deeper? While the professional setbacks are profound, his personal sorrows have also shaped him, and that's the trustworthy source of his character. The beginning of the Klondike King's story. Tony Beets' journey to becoming a legend didn't just start in the Yukon goldfields. It began on a modest dairy farm in Yukon, Netherlands. He literally defined humble beginnings as he had to make ends meet by milking cows. This was a completely different journey than the one he would later experience, an experience that went from milking cows to heavy machinery and high-stakes financial gambles. Tony immigrated to Canada and settled in the Yukon Territory in 1984. He began his career in the Klondike as a machine operator on small mining claims. As time went on, and with relentless efforts, he built his own operation from the ground up. This was a commendable process, and because of it, he gained a reputation, even before the Discovery Channel and all the cameras and fame arrived. As time passed, he became known as the Viking, a nickname that wasn't given to him just because of his Dutch heritage, but because of his force, relentless drive, and willingness to go above and beyond to pursue the career and wealth he wanted. Over time, this foundation evolved into Tamarack Incorporated, the mining company now representing the backbone of all his fortune and legacy. Tony Beets made his life what he wanted, but he didn't do it all alone. Minnie Beets, his wife and partner, was by his side the whole time. Their love story is the stuff most romantic movies are made of. Minnie is Tony's childhood sweetheart, so they grew up together in that small Holland village. Her role in the entire organization is essential as she acts as the financial gatekeeper and bookkeeper, a title she has held for over 10 years. While there is no doubt that Tony can hold his own, especially regarding his frontier mentality and ability to take risks, Minnie Beets was precisely what he needed, because she provided stability. The fans and their peers popularly know her as the backbone of the family mining operation, and she often serves as the stabilizing force against Tony's knack for impulsivity, ensuring that his ambition does not become financial chaos. Tony Beets went from a boy on a small farm to running one of the Klondike region's largest and most ambitious gold operations. Tamarack Inc. controls a whopping 337 placer claims. This isn't an easy place to get to. In fact, operating at this scale requires a huge capital outlay and an acceptance that equipment failure is bound to happen, not just a possibility. However, Tony's mantra kept him going. He knew that one must be willing to spend big to make money in gold, and this led him to acquire massive equipment, including colossal wash plants and bulldozers worth millions of dollars in capital investment. That being said, the most visually and financially compelling aspect of Tony's whole operation is his commitment to historic gold dredges. He has a strategy that not a lot of miners live by. For Tony, he tries to refurbish and operate vintage equipment on the 75-year-old gold dredge he moved from Clear Creek to his claim on the Indian River. This is yet another process requiring much financial and technical commitment. This fact can be backed up by estimates, which suggest that the acquisition and running costs for such a project alone could exceed $1 million. Over the course of his years from the beginning of his journey, Tony Beets has courageously moved, showing his commitment to such massive and complex vintage machinery. The whole thing is a strategic gamble that creates constant and immense pressure on the entire Beets family. From the acquisition cost to the subsequent maintenance needed, they would need consistently high gold hauls to break even. This high-stakes investment requires the company always to have a massive and record-breaking gold production. The public crisis and the truth of the heartbreak. Now that you know the backstory on Tony Beets and his operations, it's time to get into the nitty-gritty details. First, it may come as no surprise that with a relentless pursuit of gold exacerbated by the significant capital investment in vintage equipment and claims, the entire Beet operation is always on the brink of a crisis. The most recent publicly confirmed professional tragedy faced by Tony Beets involved an operational failure that momentarily shattered the Vikings' great strength and any illusion of invincibility he had. During a recent season, chronic mechanical issues forced Tony Beets to temporarily shut down his Indian River mine site, stopping gold production for a critical portion of the mining calendar. This breakdown didn't happen out of nowhere or in isolation. It followed a high-stakes and strategic gamble to relocate to the Indian River site, which promised enormous returns. However, downtime will inevitably lead to money hemorrhage when wash plants fail or complex generators break down. For this type of operation, which recovers thousands of ounces of gold per season and generates millions in gross revenue, a forced seasonal shutdown is the worst thing that can happen, and is described as the biggest catastrophe of the highest order. The financial strain alone is on a vast scale. It takes a lot to keep the crew and infrastructure waiting while dealing with crippling mechanical failure. As you can imagine, this put quite the pressure on Tony and Minnie. In a vicious cycle, the financial strain led to intense pressure from Tony and then on to his children and crew. He needed instant success to recover all his losses during the downtime. The magnitude of this whole operation dictates that operational failure immediately means a multi-million-dollar crisis. Aside from the pressures of the Yukon, the Beets family has endured other disasters. Another public crisis they faced came from obvious legal issues, and this is a prime example of how more visibility could mean more problems. In their case, their presence on reality television directly amplified their liabilities. The whole thing started with the infamous Viking baptism incident during filming of Season 5. In October 2014, a subcontractor named Mark Favron poured gasoline into a dredge pond on the site near Indian River and ignited it, seemingly as a Viking baptism, to change the equipment's luck. As it turns out, Tony Beets was present and allegedly permitted the stunt, stating that he didn't give a fuck when asked if pouring the fuel into the water was permissible. The 30-second clip was aired, drawing a complaint from enforcement officers. A legal battle followed this incident, which resulted in charges being laid under the Yukon Waters Act for improperly disposing of waste and failing to report the disposal. In 2017, Tony Beets and Tamarack Inc. were found guilty, and the court ordered Tony Beets to pay $6,000. Tamarack Inc. is to pay $25,000, totaling $31,000 in fines. This conviction came with some heavy costs to the Beet family, and they were beyond just financial. The territorial court judge Peter Chisholm delivered quite a strong message, stating that the experienced miner could have prevented the stunt, and that the fine was intended to send a message to polluters that the court takes such cases very seriously. When the case was appealed to the Yukon Supreme Court, the decision was upheld, and the court emphasized the zero tolerance for gasoline in a water system. It didn't stop there. The legal judgment didn't leave out any loopholes, as it explicitly addressed the entire reality television context. The court noted that the fact that the crime was filmed and then watched by millions highlighted the need to condemn that behavior. The court also stated that both Beets and Tamarack enjoyed the notoriety of being featured in the clip. This shows how his celebrity status directly influenced the judicial need for significant pushback against environmental breaches like this one. Tony Beets was also forced to pay for cleanup, and he faced difficulty obtaining water licenses, all because of his public sins. While there are several reports on the tragedies of the Beets, the intense media scrutiny surrounding the family often leads to the exposure of different individuals and tragedies. One piece of news that needs clarification is a persistent piece of online misinformation regarding a fatal car crash. Several media reports document a 2013 vehicular homicide case in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, involving a different person named Jasmine Beets. Jasmine Beets, who was 22 years old at the time, was accused of driving while suspended and was involved in a crash that tragically led to the passing of a 73-year-old Lee Green. She subsequently pleaded no contest to a felony charge of knowingly operating while suspended, ultimately causing a loss of life, and she received a stayed prison sentence and probation, along with a restitution order for funeral expenses. It is essential to clarify that this Jasmine Beets is unrelated to the Gold Rush family. However, there is heartbreaking news that Tony and Minnie Beets have confirmed, and this news is in relation to the profound tragedy of losing their infant daughter, also named Jasmine Beets. This loss occurred decades ago, and while it isn't one of their other televised dramas that involves legal battles and mining setbacks, this is a personal sorrow with a heavy impact that remains largely undisclosed publicly. This loss isn't anything like what the public has witnessed regarding the Beet family, but it still has an emotional weight that can't be forgotten. This profound and deeply personal loss has defined the Viking's character in one way or another. When you think about it, all of his drive and his ability to keep going even in the face of failure, and then his need to build a great financial empire for the rest of his children, Monica, Kevin, and Michael, show that he might still be dealing with the sorrows of losing Jasmine. While he has faced professional challenges, like the recent seasonal shutdown of the massive regulatory fines, losing his daughter is admittedly the biggest heartbreak. The Beets family dynamic. The whole Beet family has a stake in the operation of their family business. Regarding the ins and outs of running Tamarack Inc., especially at its current scale, all hands must be on deck, and the partnership involved must be both personal loyalty and distinct professional competency. One name that comes to mind when this topic of discussion reaches the surface is Minnie Beets. She is more than just Tony Beets' wife. She is the operational necessity that keeps it all going. She is the steady hand needed for a system as unstable as this one, and she is also the financial wall that stops Tony's sometimes aggressive ambitions from running amok. As the company's bookkeeper for over a decade, Minnie has tightly controlled all the purse strings. Sometimes this duty places her in direct fire with her husband Tony, because she frequently disagrees with him over the fortune he pours into his passion projects and high-risk projects, particularly the acquisition and restoration of massive and old-school equipment like the vintage dredges. If there's one thing to note, it's that her ability to stay disciplined as a manager ensures stability, which has kept the company going. Tony's whole business model depends on absorbing huge losses and unexpected costs, such as the massive cost of a seasonal shutdown due to mechanical failure, or the substantial $31,000 in legal fines levied against him and Tamarack Incorporated. So Minnie's oversight and discipline ensure that the company maintains the financial buffer to withstand all these operational shocks. She basically turns Tony's aggressive frontier mentality into sustained and corporate profit. This shows that the Viking doesn't only need his bulldozer to survive, but he most importantly needs Minnie and her invaluable assets. While it might seem like the business aspect of Tony Beets' life is all there is to it, there's also one of the most significant and long-term challenges he has to face, and that's managing the generational wealth. If there's one thing Tony has done, it is to ensure that all his surviving children, Monica, Kevin, and Michael, are all involved within Tamarack Inc. and hold key roles that reflect high levels of specialized expertise. Each of his children has a massive portion of the operation. For one, Monica Beets is a highly skilled operator who moved into managing the Was plant operations and demonstrates an immense capability and brings in substantial gold totals, including hauls of over $230,000 in a short time. Then you have Kevin Beets, the crucial lead mechanic, who is constantly dealing with the maintenance and repair of the company's aging and complex fleet, including the immense wash plants and dredges. Then there is Michael Beets, the second youngest, who leads from the front, managing the large night shift crew of truck operators and heavy equipment, moving everything from dozers to 40-ton cranes. Even though they have all those responsibilities and they've shown dedication and expertise, Tony's management style, which is direct and quite relentless, can often come across as lacking trust in them. And this obviously creates a high level of tension that has been documented on the show. While generational wealth might be the goal, generational conflict is the order of the day and has caused a sustained and low-grade internal tragedy. There have been many reports of ongoing drama with Kevin, Monica, and Michael Beets. All of this drama comes from Tony's difficulty in fully delegating authority. The pressure became so intense that Kevin, struggling with the lack of autonomy, reportedly decided to take a year off, notifying Tony and Minnie only after they had already returned to the Yukon for the season. This level of friction within the Beets family suggests something more profound than just the normal tension that comes from working together in a high-pressure environment. Tony's relentless drive, the same force that built his empire and made him a household name, can sometimes cast a long shadow over his loved ones. It's the intensity that inspires greatness, but can also create distance. His children have grown up in the gold fields, watching their father build everything from the ground up, but they also live under the immense weight of his expectations. Tony's unyielding standards, his no-nonsense approach, and his tendency to take control of every operation leave little room for anyone else to take the reins fully. While his behavior might be rooted in grief, shaped by the losses and hardships he has endured, it has also become a defining part of who he is. The pain that forged his strength is the same pain that makes it difficult for him to step back. In his eyes, hard work and total control are the only ways to survive, and letting go feels like risking everything he's fought for. To Tony, the empire is not just a business. It's the product of decades of sweat, sacrifice, and sleepless nights. It represents his legacy, his family's future, and the story of a man who turned nothing into something extraordinary. But for his children, the struggle is different. They are not trying to prove they can mine gold. That part comes naturally, having grown up under Tony's watchful eye. They are trying to prove they can lead and run this multi-million-dollar operation without constantly being compared to their father or feeling like they're walking in his shadow. They want to show they can honor his legacy while carving out their identities within it. That's no small task when your father is one of modern mining history's most iconic and strong-willed figures. There's also an emotional tug-of-war, a desire for Tony's approval and frustration at his unwillingness to let go. Each child, in their own way, faces the challenge of balancing respect for the man who built everything with the need to take ownership of their own path. For Tony, releasing control might feel like losing a part of himself, while for his children, taking control means finally stepping out of the shadow and proving they're capable of carrying the Beets name into the future. In many ways, the Beets family story is not just about gold or success. It's about legacy, generational tension, and the complicated love between a father who built an empire and children who must now learn to keep it alive without losing themselves. The gold may glitter, but beneath it lies a deeper struggle between holding on and letting go. The reactions of Gold Rush fans. When fans watch Gold Rush, they see Tony Beets commanding his crew, pushing heavy and massive machinery through the mud, and even shouting over loud engines. However, they often don't see the emotional core that truly lives within him. He is not just a man who lives on gold alone, he also runs on the blood, sweat, and tears of his past experiences. And he has gone through heartbreaking tragedies over time. After losing his daughter Jasmine, his world inevitably changed. The tragedy probably gave him a new perspective on life, and it wasn't just about success anymore. It was also about building an empire that would last for all the people he loved. For him, mining was no longer just a job. It had now become a way to keep his family together, honor them, and honor those he had lost. Tony and Minnie went so hard at work that they poured themselves into everything they did. They were resolute in building a lasting legacy for their children and community. So everyone watched them work hard for every ounce of gold, which was them playing a huge role in building their legacy. Then Kevin, Mike, and Monica joined the family business, learning everything they could about the mining world from their father. They were no longer just his kids, but his team, pride, and strength. Of course, viewers were privy to seeing Tony's temper go crazy on camera. He had several points of frustration, from broken equipment to missing targets, and sometimes he would also flare up at his children. However, underneath all the fire and hailstorms was a man who didn't like failure, not for his sake alone, but for all the people who depended on him. He always thought that providing for his family was his purpose in life, and the loss of Jasmine Beets was the beginning of deepening that notion even more. In interviews, Tony's wife, Minnie Beets, has said they have always been a team. "We've built everything together," she stated once. She further talked about how they have worked side by side their whole lives and are unafraid of hard work. This couldn't be any more truthful. Tracking back to their days on that farm in the Netherlands to the Yukon, Minnie has been by Tony's side for the entire ride. While Minnie attests to all the triumphs and hard work that got them there, she admits that some pains never fade. Many moments are away from the cameras and the loud engines, where she sees the world's weight in Tony's eyes. No amount of success can erase emotional pain, and the Beets know that more than anyone else. In recent years, even the fans have noticed a change, as they have noticed that Tony shows a more reflective side. This man once seemed like nothing could shake him, but now he speaks more openly about life's realities, legacy, and loss. In one candid moment during the gold rush, Tony Beets admitted that the mining world isn't what it used to be, and that even the most experienced miners faced hardships that tested their limits. Based on Tony's history, it is safe to say that he knows a thing or two about hardships, and how they have tested his limits. The Beets family has seen everything from mechanical failures to the loss of life, legal battles, and even weather challenges. There have been seasons where everything probably worked against them, but they kept holding on. Legal battles happened, expensive equipment broke down, financial breakdowns occurred, gold yields fell short, and even water permits stalled. It would have been easy to walk away with all these things in mind, but Tony never did. He kept on digging, kept on rebuilding, and he kept on moving forward. You might be wondering why, and to put it simply, it's just who Tony Beets is to his very core. Even with all the heartbreaks of life, he keeps going. It is who it is. And maybe it is also because deep down, he knows what real loss feels like. So, compared to that kind of heartbreak, no mining problem is enough to break him. Despite his perseverance, it still hasn't been easy. In fact, there have been rumors for many years that Tony was thinking about stepping back and handing over more control to his children. Viewers have watched Monica and Kevin Beets take on bigger roles. In one show episode, Tony watched Monica operate heavy machinery with such skill and focus. He had a proud father moment, and he later said, "You raise your kids hoping they will do better than you ever did. You just want to see them win." This moment moved a lot of viewers, and it showed them a side of Tony that they didn't get to see very often. The Beets family has faced its fair share of professional and personal challenges. There were many years when mining permits threatened to shut down their operations, when entire dredges broke beyond repair, and when the harsh Yukon winter nearly destroyed months of progress. Through it all, Tony always found a way to start again. Many fans don't realize how much Tony has endured to keep his entire operation alive. He has poured a lot of money, which comes down to millions of dollars, on equipment alone. His whole livelihood is a gamble, and there have been a lot of tears when the gold totals don't even meet up with the cost. But through it all, it was not just about the profit for Tony Beets. He thrived in proving that hard work still means something in a constantly changing world, and it was also about his legacy. So even after his operations, he hit rock bottom, and he faced the chance of losing everything. It wasn't the gold that kept him going, it was his family. When it comes to the public response to Tony Beets, both during his moments of crisis and his success, it is clear that there is a mix of fascination and admiration for him. Many fans see him as a person who has been able to succeed in a business that is constantly failing. The viewers understand that all his abrasive mannerisms are not flaws but necessary traits for survival in the Klondike. When the Beets crew faces viable drama or setbacks like mechanical failures or even the widely reported family conflicts, The community tends to express support for Tony and his drive to keep going. When the news began to spread about Tony Beets and how he opened up about losing his daughter, many of the Gold Rush community reacted with overwhelming support for him. For years, many fans only saw him as the hardcore man with a color work ethic, but not many people knew about his pain beyond what they saw on screen. When he spoke about his tragedy, it reminded many viewers that even the strongest men in reality television are still just humans at the end of the day. Many messages flooded social media from fans worldwide who sent the Beets family love and prayers. They even thanked Tony and Minnie for sharing something personal about their lives. Many wrote about how their honesty was actually helping them heal from their own grief, and many stated that hearing someone as strong and stoic as Tony Beets talk about loss made them feel less alone. Many people who have met Tony off camera have said he is far kinder and more reflective than many reflective people know. They say that the man who swears at broken equipment and demands perfection also takes his time to check in on his crew, laugh with them at the end of a long shift, and even offer advice to them that stays in their hearts forever. Many of his fellow Gold Rush cast members also spoke about his resilience. Parker Schnabel once called him a man who has seen it all and still shows up. That line alone captures the essence of Tony Beets, a man whose strength, perseverance, and grit define his life and what makes Gold Rush such a compelling show. Tony's not just a miner, he's a living symbol of hard-earned resilience. Every wrinkle on his face and every word spoken in that deep, gravelly tone tell the story of a man who's endured storms most couldn't weather, both on the field and in his personal life. When news of his heartbreaks and family struggles began to surface, fans revisited earlier seasons with a new perspective. Suddenly, those moments when Tony snapped at his crew or worked himself to exhaustion weren't just displays of intensity. They were glimpses into the spirit of a man carrying invisible weights. Every glare, gruff comment, and sleepless night on the dredge now look like pieces of a larger picture. A man driven by something more profound than gold, fighting through pain, loss, and pressure but refusing to give up. Even Minnie, his lifelong partner, and the quiet strength beside him. There you have it, the heartbreaking details of the man that is Tony Beets. His story is a reminder that every success story is built on hard work, pain, setbacks, and even loss. It is essential to take away the lessons Tony Beets' life has taught, whether that's in his ability never to give up or pursue a lasting legacy for his family. Whatever the case, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below.
We sold some bloody cheap gold this month. We locked in the price on the 5th. We do every month. We lock in the price on the 5th for our subscription service, and then you have until the 14th to sign up, and then we pack and ship orders from the 14th to the 18th. So when we locked in the gold price on the 5th, it was $5,462 an ounce. Today's the 18th. Victoria's officially sent all of October orders out, and it's at $5,900 an ounce, which is crazy. It's gone up $500 an ounce since we locked in that price, meaning even if you signed up on the 14th, you still get the price from back on what it was on the 5th. So everyone in October got a really good deal. But let's break down the math now so you can understand exactly what subscription level is getting how many grams and the price breakdown. So it's $175.61 a gram on the 5th when we locked it in. And then for our coarse gold, it's 82% pure. It's coming out of the Indian River region. So we do a purity adjustment, meaning we take off to account for the impurities like the silver and the nickel and whatever else is in it. So basically we take the gram price, $175.61 a gram, and we times it by 0.82 or take off 18%. So you're just paying for the gold. So that means it's $144 per raw gram. So for our coarse gold, we charge spot plus 25%. Our coarse gold's more expensive because it's more rare. So that raw gram price plus 25% means you're paying $180 Canadian a gram. Pretty good deal. This means for the $250 coarse gold subscribers, this month they got 1.4 grams, and the $500 option got 2.8 grams. So then for the granular gold subscribers, granular gold is cheaper, and it's 84% pure, so a little bit more pure. So a purity adjustment on that would mean $175.61 a gram, which is that gram price we locked in, times 0.84 or take 16%, meaning you're paying $147.51 per raw gram because it's a little bit more pure. So then we take that and we plus 15%, a little bit cheaper than the coarse option, meaning you're paying $169.64 a gram. I'm signed up to that option. So the $250 monthly subscribers got 1.5 grams and the $500 option got 2.9 grams. I am in sunny Australia. It was pretty hot today, but over in the Yukon where Victoria Nil gold mine is, it is snowing and freezing cold. So they're wrapping up the season now, which is really exciting. They're in full swing trying to winterize everything and get everything prepped. But yeah, I'm excited to show some more behind the scenes of that. You also get a certificate of authenticity with all of your orders, and we sent this in an email with the big price breakdown. But if you guys have any questions, let me know.